We will call to order the Board of Elections regular board meeting for the City of Chicago. Good morning. My name is Maricel Hernandez. I'm the chairwoman. Seated to my right is Commissioner William Cressy, and to my left is Commissioner Jonathan Swain. Next item on the agenda is the consideration of the agenda. Are there any suggested changes? If not, we'll proceed with the next item, approval of minutes, but we have none today. So we will then go to the Executive Director's report. Mr. Gough.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm passing out a copy of a letter from the Justice Department that was sent to the City of Chicago's Corporation Counsel. As you know, we've been working with the Justice Department equipped for equality and polling place accessibility. We're trying to set up a meeting of all the different departments and with the Justice Department, and they just wanted to outline some information to give to the Corporation Counsel. So I have given to all the other departments, agencies in the city. So I just wanted to make sure my board members had a copy of this. Tracy from Equipped for Equality. I've been absent for a while, and I'd like to thank Charles Holliday for covering for me while I was gone. But the NDRN conference was in Baltimore. And Tracy, you want to give a rundown?
Good morning. I'm Tracy Hartlieb from Equipped for Equality. As Len said, we were in both Lance and I was there, and other members of the staff at Equipped for Equality for a variety of reasons. We're at the National Disability Rights Network conference in Baltimore a few weeks ago, and we were pleased to have a table there where we actually demonstrated the electronic survey that we're using in Chicago, and that was terrific. People came around. They were actually able to work on a test survey on my cell phone and build it up on the computer. It seems that no one has seen anything similar to this, which was great, and they saw how helpful it could be out in the field as opposed to carrying paper surveys, so that was exciting for us to show. We're continuing our meetings with Chicago Board of Elections. We actually have a meeting tomorrow with Adam and Deborah Moss to continue our work to provide accessibility to the polling places in the City of Chicago. As I mentioned last time, we're also kind of expanding this slightly and working with the State Board of Elections to see whether we can get more polling places throughout the entire state on board with their accessibility issues, kind of focusing on a similar method that we're using with Chicago Board of Elections has been successful. So that's what's been happening since the last meeting. Does anyone have any questions?
Quick question as to this letter. It's dated June 18th. Do either of you know, has the Corporation Counsel responded?
They have not responded as of yet. I did make a phone call over there and talk to them, and they are responding. But he did not send out copies to the other department heads, so I did that. So, very good. So we can have one meeting where we're all together, and hopefully we're going to do it in this office here. So I just want the board members to be aware of that.
Very good. Thank you.
Just to let the board members know, there's a State Board of Election meeting today at 10:30, and a couple of the items on the agenda have to do with us. One is the interim, the approval of our voting system for for this year and next year. It's our 2-year certification, so I wanted the board members to be aware that's up to date. Also, we had our public hearing in our office of AVR. They want to talk about that. They want to expand on the automatic voter registration. So I said we'd be there at the meeting to talk about that also. And also about the cybersecurity conference, which Charles went to in Southern Illinois. Charles, you want to give a quick rundown?
On June 19th to the 21st, along with Matthew Lynn, our manager of the IT department, we did attend the IACA Election Cybersecurity Conference in Bloomington, Normal. We gave background on information on what's at stake for elections through cybersecurity threats and how to protect our systems from those attackers. It was a very informative conference, and I believe they're scheduling another.
Mr. Gough, I note about the ADR. I noted earlier this week, I believe the Illinois Secretary of State's office sent out a media alert that they are now operating or starting to roll out the ADR with the Secretary of State.
Yes, we received our first batch of ballots. Registration.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Don't want to get.
So, yeah, they have.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Gough?
I know Jim Allen's going to talk about the canvas. I'll leave it up to Mr. Allen.
Well, let me
Oh,
just
yes.
make sure, Mr. Holliday, do you have anything else?
Yes, so we mentioned about the ABR, so the registration department has started processing those registrations through the automatic voter registration system. The paper judge of election application is available, and the online application will be available on July 16th. On Saturday, June 23rd, I attended the Cook County Democratic Party training for new committeemen at the IBEW Local 134, along with Arja, the wiki manager of the Community Service Department, who gave insight to the new committeemen on how to assign judges to the SHOT poll worker site where they need to register, and then they could track as the applications are added. And finally, on Saturday, June 30th, I attended the 9th Ward kickoff for the Republican election judge sign up at the Trumbull Park, along with Mashawn Trelleber from the Community Service Department and Commissioner Cressy, who gave a very eloquent, informational, and motivational speech on the importance to our democracy of having precinct staff with both political parties. So, congratulations, because he did a great job.
Thank you, sir. It was an honor being there with you. You did a great job, as all of our people always do. And we try to sign up those election judges. Thank you.
And other than that, just going over the day-to-day operations of the office and preparing the staff for November election.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Allen?
Good morning. Got a meeting tomorrow with the Chicago Public Schools. We're going to be assessing different outreach opportunities for the fall and the spring, or fall and winter ahead of the next two elections. Next, as Mr. Gough mentioned, we're moving ahead on the Canvas project. We do it every year. We've changed it a little bit this year, as we discussed at the last meeting about the availability of different kinds of card stock. So I just wanted to give you, we can go and look at this after the meeting, but this is the design that we're going with in terms of a folded mail piece, and it's got a message about upcoming elections. It's got an indication that there's a voter card inside, so people are less inclined to pitch it. But again, the key of this is not so much to get people their cards, which is helpful, but to get the return mail, which helps us clean up the rolls. And it's important to note that this is not like the Canvas in Ohio, in that after the first mailing, there's also a second forwardable mailing that can follow the person if they've moved to another part of the state or out of state, and their status is not canceled. They're just moved to the inactive file, which means they can continue to vote simply by showing up anytime over the next 4 years. So, and then only after those 4 years would we consider canceling if we've got a clear indication that someone has moved and there's been no activity on that registration.
I noticed it seems to be a little larger, and it's in full color, the sample you just passed out.
We're gonna go over the bids. The bids came in, there was a very competitive bidding process, and it's not that much more in the way of color or cost or anything. Once you're going to that size anymore, going from 2-color to 4-color does not impact the cost as much as it once did.
Right.
At one time, you know, that was considered this major operation for a printer, but now with the ability to jet a lot of that material, it's much less cumbersome for them to do that. So that, by the way, the graphic on the back emphasizes the option of vote by mail. We thought we'd get that message across. Since this is going out right about the time that we go online with the ability to apply for a vote by mail ballot for November. Lastly, we have made headway on another project we discussed earlier about moving the website and all the email addresses to .gov. It took about 4 sets of correspondence with the federal GSA and VeriSign because they needed some kind of statutory definition. They wanted to label us as either a city agency or a county agency or a state agency. And we had to explain several times where none of the above were a product of the election code. So finally they got and accepted the message, and so we're moving ahead with that. There are just a couple more hurdles that we need to go across, and then we'll be converting that. The .com will just redirect people to the .gov once we make that conversion. The only challenge will be with email addresses, where we're going to have to set up possibly return messages saying, you know, this is no longer a valid email address. But once we're done with the conversion, we'll have everybody, all the emails and the website under .gov. Right now we have the website .com and the emails.net. So this will rectify that. So we'll have to rip off that Band-Aid.
Okay.
Could you explain again why we had to do the conversion of the .com? .gov?
It's been recommended that it's one more layer of security for our website. Again, we don't have anything on our website that's related to our balloting systems or our voting, but in terms of the possibility of a DDoS attack, a dedicated denial of service attack, this is just one more layer of protection that we can provide.
Because .gov sites are monitored vigorously.
A little bit more, yes.
There's
That's all.
nothing further, anything further? Okay, thank you so much. If there's nothing further, then we'll proceed with old business, infrastructure projects and changes in election administration. Mr. Gough, anything?
Well, we're going back into reviewing our voting equipment,
Okay.
so we will be working on that.
Okay. Electronic poll books, Judd, how's everything going?
Just fine. Not a whole lot of activity at this time.
Okay. Voting equipment, we have Waldy's here and friends.
Friends, I run the whole company. We're up for our certification, state board recommended, so we'll be heading over there here shortly. It's a 2-year.
Great. We look forward to the recertification. And legislation. Adam?
3 bills that I just want to touch on where we are waiting for the governor's signature or veto. The pretrial detainee voting bill in the jails did pass. That was sent to the governor on June 21st, so by August 20th he either has to veto or it will become law. And that's House Bill 4469. Also on Senate Bill 2273, that passed both houses and was sent to the governor on May 18th, so coming right up on July 17th here as the veto deadline or it becomes law. That's the ERIC bill that would require the State Board of Elections to use the ERIC system and not the cross-check system for obtaining voter registration information from other states. Finally, Senate Bill 2651 has passed and was sent to the governor on June 29th. So his veto deadline on that is August 28th. This does a few different things. It's going to require us as an election authority to every 2 years provide a report to the state board about our election equipment and the status of it, what we're using, and then we'll have to post that information on our website, and the State Board of Elections will post that, all of the information from all of the election authorities on their website. Number two, it tightens up time frame for vote-by-mail applications received by third parties. There are organizations out there that will send out vote-by-mail applications, and then they receive those applications back. This requires them to turn those applications over to us within 7 days of their receipt, or within the 2 weeks before an election, they have to turn it over within 2 days. They also have to have their name and phone number on their applications that they send out. There were several other bills that are still pending. None of them seem to be moving. They included proposals that if a third party were to send out an application, their return envelope would have to be prepaid and addressed directly to us. But the legislature has opted to go with this version of the bill. So again, August 28th is the deadline on that.
On that last piece, the information that we've supplied to the state board about equipment, is that information that's readily accessible and available?
We don't know exactly what it is yet. The statute just says that we shall submit specified information. I think it's going to be up to the State Board of Elections to draw up some guidelines on that now.
They don't have those guidelines in place yet.
No, they don't, not yet. So they don't have the guidelines in place yet. However, I do think the answer to your question is we will know this information. It'll be readily available to us because it's what we're using, and we ask the people sitting here how things are going, and we'll know the certification status and so forth.
Very good.
During the build-up to that legislation, that was promoted by one of the city's leading civic organizations, and there were discussions about questions like how long ago was this equipment manufactured, how recently was it certified, and to try to report a little bit on any kind of malfunctions, that kind of thing. So it wasn't anything too exhaustive.
As I understand, we have most of that information, not all of it already.
This would formalize it. We talked with them because initially they were talking about wanting to do it in certain periods of the year that were right in the middle of our elections. And so we encouraged them to set up a date that was more amenable for all the election jurisdictions where we would be interfering with our regular operations.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, we'll proceed to new business, and we have a contract for printing and mailing of the August 2018 full voter canvass. Laurel?
Just as Jim Allen had stated, we did issue a competitive bid for the full voter canvass for the August 2018 date, and we did receive quite a bit of competitive pricing for the work. And the apparent low bidder was Sheely Group. Unfortunately, they had to rescind their bid. They were unable to meet the price that they initially had submitted with their proposal, simply because they had not incorporated all of the mailing costs that have been affiliated with it. So then the next lowest bidder was Cardinal Color Group, which then we confirmed with them as well if they were able to meet the pricing as well as the availability of the paper. Just as Jim had stated, there is a whole change in the paper industry, so they were able to confirm it, and yes, they were able to meet the pricing that they offered as well. So with that, we are proposing that Cardinal Color Group be considered for award of the contract.
If there are no further questions, is there a motion to approve the contract with Cardinal Color Group for printing and mailing of the August 2018 full voter canvass? The contract would be effective beginning on July 10th, 2018 through December 31st, 2018, in the amount of $98,000.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes and the contract is approved. Thank you, Laurel.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the legal report. Adam?
So Mr. Gough and I are preparing to head up to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where the Elections Research Center up there is hosting the second annual conference for Election Sciences Reform and Administration, otherwise known as ERSA. So there's going to be presentations and discussions by both academic researchers and election professionals from all around the country. The two of us are splitting up on two different panels that will participate. One is a discussion on how Election Day registration is being implemented here in Chicago and in Illinois. The other topic is two academics will be presenting papers on the management of voter registration, sort of what we just heard from Jim as to how our mailings work and other methods like that. So we'll be discussing those two topics up there and looking forward to participating in the national conference. The second thing I'd like to discuss is, as we've previously talked about, the lawsuit in which we are one of the defendants is Segovia et al. Versus the United States. It's against the United States, the Chicago Board of Elections, and Rock Island County, Illinois. That has gone up to the Supreme Court on a petition for writ of certiorari. We had originally filed a waiver of response, which is very customary, but the court has actually asked all of the respondents to file their response. As you know, you've approved a contract for outside legal counsel. Thank you very much. They've got experience at the Supreme Court level. The current status is that I have put in a request to the Illinois Attorney General's office to finally appear and defend this law. They have declined to do so at the district court level and the appellate court level. But, so the public is aware this lawsuit is just plaintiffs challenging a federal law that deals with people who are citizens and residents of Illinois or citizens of the United States and then move away to U.S. territories. For certain U.S. territories, you move away, you can still vote. Other U.S. territories, you cannot vote. They're challenging that law. They're also challenging the Illinois law that mirrors, essentially, the federal law. We don't really have, I don't think the board has a position really one way or the other about this law, and it's not our law to defend, so I'm hoping the state will step in now that we're at the Supreme Court level.
What happens if the state doesn't step in?
We will, just like the district court, when the state refused to step in, the district court ordered us to file a response. Now here the Supreme Court has asked for a response, so we will respond. We will do what we did below. This was all done before I became the general counsel, but in reviewing our briefing, it looks like we did a nice job of explaining the history of the law, explaining how we operate under it. What we have not explained, and the plaintiffs keep pointing this out in their pleadings, is what was the legislative intent, what's the purpose, why has this law not changed over the 40-some years where there have been other changes. That's really for the General Assembly to answer. That we're not in a position to say those things. So we will respond and give a history of the law and explain how we operate underneath it, and that's the best we could do. And of course, the United States Solicitor General is defending
Is the
the
state
federal law.
board a party?
No, they're not. The plaintiffs just happen to live in Chicago and Rock Island County, and so they just happen to name their own specific election authorities. That's why we are in the case.
We're not proper parties, or we could have, that is a real proper party, and we shouldn't have been the state board?
Well, we would be a proper party for injunctive purposes. If the court is going to tell us to stop operating under that law, that would make us a proper party, but I would call us a nominal party, which is why we're asking the state to step in and defend its own law. I'm not sure why the state is not a defendant, since the United States is.
Okay.
And that's it for now.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the financial reports. First, we have a balance sheet and voucher listing for the City of Chicago, 2018 appropriation, number 18-05, dated June 26, 2018, in the amount of $466,600.63. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We also have a balance sheet and voucher listing for the County of Cook, a 2018 appropriation, number 18-05, dated June 26, 2018, in the amount of $311,863.87. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, on the agenda is public comments. I did not receive any requests for public comment.
There is one thing I wanted to relay. We received via an email and then a subsequent phone call, a request from the Better Government Association. And I just want to relay it to the commissioners to consider, not to try to make a decision on this one way or the other, but they're asking that for the 2019 municipal elections on our website, when we list the candidates or provide a sample ballot, that we provide links to, so that if it lists the name John Jones, for example, it would also serve as a link to the John Jones for Alderman or John Jones for Mayor or whatever website. So there are pros and cons to that, you know, and I relayed that the point they were making was that the state board is doing this, and I made the note that the state board does not print any ballots, count any votes, arrange any polling places. They're kind of a different layer of the election process. And some of the concerns could be if a website is merely an attack website on somebody else, do we want to get into that? On the other hand, if that's what the candidates' key messages are, you know, let the voters decide whether or not that's you know, a good or bad thing.
Isn't there a larger issue to get what the messages are, but too many people that have websites and don't?
That was another item that I relayed to her. I was concerned that there may be some candidates who have a distinct advantage in terms of being able to have the resources for a website or not. Mm-hmm. And so these are some of the things, just if you want to kick it around, I told her we couldn't make a snap decision on something like that, right, because it gets into
partiality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I think it's worth thinking about, but I do think that there's issues there that need to be considered thoroughly, and we want everyone to have an equal playing field as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And so, that would be one of my concerns. But I think it's worth thinking about, and we could revisit this in another meeting. Okay?
very well.
Thank you, Karen. Next item is the executive session. Do we have anything?
Not this time. We should prepare for a long one for next time, but not this week.
Okay. If there is no executive session, is there a motion to adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting on July 24th, 2018 at 9:30 a.m.?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.